Right, welcome everybody. It is so nice to have you part of Elite Masterminds, a session where I have guests that join me in the session. These are high-performing agents that really succeed at the highest level in their business. And we discuss certain elements that actually helps, well, you and anybody through their particular journey. And I must admit, as a real estate agent, it's always overwhelming when you want to go out and you want to build a business, but you're not too sure how. Well, you could do one of two things. You could either Google it and try and understand how to do it, or you can listen to people that have actually gone through this particular journey and they've actually uncovered it. Now, today, we're going to talk about something called mastering the art of follow up. And follow up is absolutely important in anybody's business. So let me just give you a very brief understanding of real estate. So many people look at real estate and they say, oh, it's easy, it's difficult, it's complicated. I'm going to break it down to you in a very simple manner. Real estate, in fact, only has three parts to it. That's all you've got to do is you've just got to master those three parts. Part number one is you just got to generate leads. It's for any business out there. You need to generate leads coming into your particular business so that you can start working with clients, whether it's buyer leads, seller leads, etc. So that's the first part, is you need to generate leads. But I'm going to jump to part three, because part three is the part that most agents love. It's the closing. It's the part where you've got all that excitement, that emotion from your buyers, from your sellers, and you're going through that journey of closing that transaction with them. So whether it's actually closing, it could be a lease agreement, a sale of a property, that's the part that we all enjoy, because now we know we're getting closer to the funds. So the first part is just generate leads so that you can fill your pipeline. And the third part is just closing. But what is the second part? And this is the part that, in fact, is the easiest. In fact, you don't need any skills to actually do all of this, but you've got to be consistent and persistent. You might be asking, what is that second part? Well, it's the theme of what we're going to talk about, and it's follow up. Follow up, follow up, follow up. If you can master the easiest part of real estate, which is follow up, you're going to actually increase your chances of doing sales. We've actually done a bit of research, and studies have shown that 60% of the agents in the industry do not follow up. And if you actually look at all your business, 80% of your business comes from a follow up. So if you're part of those agents that's not doing the follow up, you're actually missing out on the biggest part of your business. If you can master the art of follow up, you're going to find that your business is actually going to start becoming easier and easier. And I use that word loosely because there is obviously systems and tools. So joining me today is an agent who is a master. I'm going to say she is a master at doing her follow up. She's done this throughout her career. And joining me today again is Colette. Colette, how are you doing today?
I am good, excited. We've got a few months of the year left. I can't believe how much time has passed. So it's like ramp it up because time's flying.
Absolutely. Halfway through the second quarter of the year, and we're actually going to be nailing this out there. So, Colette, let's just jump into it. Follow up for you. Give us a bit of a history, because you, as an entrepreneur, you're a lady who's run your own business for many, many years, and your business didn't just work by itself. You had to do work. But I want you to look at that follow up category. Talk to us over the last 18 years. What has been one of your keys or tricks that you've used to maintain relationships with those particular clients?
Um, Stuart, I think it is very important because you have to service the leads that come your way in business. Whether it is just somebody reaching out for information, not necessarily they're ready to do the sale or list their property. They may just be looking at the market or, circumstances. And I've seen this in my personal life and I've seen this in business over the last few years in my life, how circumstances can change in a heartbeat for people. But and if you're not there, and if you're not going to be building that relationship continuously, whether it's a new relationship or just cultivating an existing relationship with a client, you've got to be there and you've got to be in the know. So I'm 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 quite so I have, for instance, two Facebook pages. I've got a personal one and I have got a business one, because there are certain things, I'm a bit of a free spirit and a wild child. I ride my bike and I do fun stuff on weekends. And I don't necessarily want my clients to always also see that side of me, because for me that's a bit of me. So, but in saying that, I have got, you keep in touch with people, because you can also see those relationships. You can see, oh wow, something happened in their life. Their child got married. There was a death in the family. There was something that had happened. So that little personal touch, and that little thing that you need to connect emotionally with your clients and with people. And that for me has been quite a nice thing, and I've been using a lot of that to keep those relationships and keep that communication channel open with my clients, just by being in touch, staying in touch with them, and yeah, building those relationships. And so that, oh, by the way, my situation have changed, and you know what, oh, I'm getting a divorce, I need to sell my house, can you help me? My mother-in-law's just passed on, or whatever the situation is in life changes, or financial situations come up. So I think that's the to just stay on top of it, and cultivating those relationships is really important.
Absolutely. And we're in the business of building relationships. Now, a question that's come through from so many agents that I've been coaching, Stuart, am I not encroaching on somebody when I follow up? So we know that there's this balance between kind of staying top of mind and kind of overwhelming them, that every 10 minutes, hey, you didn't respond to me type of thing. What do you do to make sure that you can maintain that balance to remain top of mind, but also not overwhelm them? How do you keep that balance?
So, I'm still quite an old school person. And I think when I entered this business as well, I started in, oh gosh, I hate spreadsheets. I'm like, oh, it's not my thing. But I have started, by initially when I just started, I do cold calling still, and I do it complex. So I would have my list of my complex people, and I would then make notes, and I would make a note, and I would color code them. So I would make important, like hot leads a red color, and I would make colors, and I would have comments and things like that. So then I would communicate with those people, like I would know, okay, this guy sounds a bit irritable, he's like, you are not. So my approach to them, that person would be different. So instead of, maybe another phone call, or somebody who is quite chatty, I would be like, hey, we spoke this and this time, and I was just going to wonder, you at the time this was happening. So I think it depends on the initial conversation that you have with that person. And it's about the questions you ask, the information that you gather, and then jot those down, make notes for yourself. And then then you plan your communication or your follow-up with those people in that manner, because you would know. And also it comes down to the reading people's personality types, because some people are the spreadsheet people. They want the facts. Yes, send me a property deck, send me a evaluation with the numbers. I want to see the numbers. I want to know what my property's value is. Then I'll make a decision. Other people want to know all the fluff and the pretty things that goes with it. So I think for me, it depends on the initial conversation that you have with that person, is how you're going to approach your communication with that person, whether it then becomes a just rather a quick WhatsApp with hey, you asked me to check in with you, I'm just reaching out, or whatever the situation is. But I think for me that it's about that initial conversation you have, and how you're going to then approach that follow-up.
And that's perfect, because what you're actually telling us is setting an expectation on that first call and actually understanding how do they want you to communicate with them, and how often you want to actually communicate with them. I also like to reflect back when you mentioned that you've got your two pages. You've got a personal Facebook page or profile, and then a business Facebook page. And your personal page is all about your authentic self. Now, I remember, and this is reflecting back, I did the exact same thing. I kept my personal on one side, but in fact, I made sure that my personal, everybody knew about me on the personal because I wanted my authentic self to go out. But one key area that I used to do is I always used to wish people happy birthday. And on Facebook, it gives you that great thing. You go up in the morning on the top right hand corner of your screen, you can actually see, hey, you've got 12 people, 13 people that are actually have got birthdays. And because I'd hit the max, I had literally between 12, 15, almost every single day. Some days a bit quieter. And I used to wish people happy birthday. And I remember this must have been back in about 2019. I actually went through the whole year of wishing happy birthday, and I actually had somebody come back to me and say, "Hey, Stuart, you know what? Thank you so much. And oh, by the way, could you assist us in selling our home?" And I saw that as a very soft method of actually follow up going through that journey. Now, Colette, I know that you've got maybe a story or two where you've done follow ups with clients, whatever medium it may have been. Have you got one that's top of mind that you could share with us where you went through it in just a normal fashion that's not complicated, but it actually led to you getting a listing or a sale?
Yes, I have a recent one actually was specifically I targeted a complex when I was still in Johannesburg, and it was Loneel. It's so many agents work there. And I just did my thing. I just did cold calling into this complex, and I reached out to people, and um, whoever didn't answer, I then follow up normally, and then I've got a little WhatsApp script, and I sent a WhatsApp to everybody. And this one lady replied back, and she said to me, "Hey, thanks for the message, but we may look at selling in maybe another month or 2 months time." So I was like, "Okay, yay!" And I made a note. I made a note in my diary, and then I followed that up in about a week or whatever the period was. I followed it up with another message, and I said, "Hey, you said that you were going to consider selling. I'm just checking in to see whether you're ready or not." And then she was ready. She phoned me. She said, "We're ready. Please come see me." And she decided that there was another agent which was part of a team of quite top agent at the time. I was still quite new at it, so she was interviewing. She decided she was going to interview 5 companies to do the listing, and I was already thinking, "Oh, here we go." And I was going for that sole mandate. And I walked in there and I was doing my thing and I was confident. And I said, and she eventually gave me the sole mandate. And I sold the property within 21 days. So she was extremely impressed. And she just said to me, one of the beautiful things in her testimonial to me was that she appreciated the follow up, because she said, just like me, a lot of agents would phone, and then she would hear from them once and then she wouldn't hear from them. And some of them that have reached out, she also sent the same message to say, "Hey, I'm now in the market." And I think it was myself and then this other guy. I think there was 3 people that actually came back to her. And if I didn't do that follow up, I wouldn't have had that soul man and I wouldn't have had that sale. And it was a quick sale. It was a cash deal. It was 21 days on the market and it was done. So that was one of my really nice success stories of, you know what, it works.
Absolutely. And, when you're actually going through all of that, I actually didn't feel like that was difficult. I mean, sending a message and actually being respectful. If someone says, "Hey, how are you doing?" Do you just sit back and you're being quiet, or you actually go back and say, "Hey, I'm doing actually quite well. And how are you?" You see, follow up is about continuing a conversation. And that's what the key is. It's about staying top of mind and continuing that particular conversation. But a lot of agents and entrepreneurs like to keep this in their minds. They think that they've got the strongest tool in the world, which is memory. And we all know that as time progresses, memory is kind of slipped. There's lots of things that happen around us that can almost distract us as we're going forward. So I want to talk about tools that can actually help you with follow up. Do you use any specific tools or systems or have any particular habit that you follow that assists you in this particular journey of doing follow ups?
Yeah, so there are some marketing plans that are available on our EXP rep system. So there's a few different ones that you can look at. There's the I think it's staying on top of mind, which is, so it gives you, and you can also create your own. So I've used this in the past quite a lot, whereas you make a phone call to the client, and especially when I target a new complex. So I use that where you make the phone call and then there's an automated email that gets sent. So you add, and as I'm phoning through this complex, I add those contacts into that marketing plan in that campaign, because like you said, we do get busy and you forget. So it's easy to use those automated marketing plans that just, it sends the email automatically. You and then you can, but you can create your own. And I think the important thing is also something I heard recently. When you're doing all of these things, don't let it seem like an advert. Be authentic. Make it different. Make it something that somebody's going to read. It's going to grab their attention. So there's so many articles, for instance, that you can get off. Property 24 has some really great articles that they create, in which is based on local content and what happens. I mean, for instance, in our area where we work, the garden route has been well renowned now for one of the top destinations for European buyers. So that kind of information is great for me to add onto the buyers that come in, the inquiries that are coming through that database that I'm creating. Those kind of articles are great for me to then add to that plan, and it gets sent to them as an interesting article. So it keeps them also, hey, I want to deal with this agent because she's informative, she's sharing information with me. So I think if you look at those marketing plans on our EXP site, you can create your own. There's different. It can either be you send you send emails automatically, or then it will remind you, okay, we'll send a WhatsApp. I'm also busy looking at the moment into PropCon. PropCon has apparently also got quite a nice system where you can do a whole lot of follow up, and it reminds you to do things. I actually took some of Ada's advice on that. So I'm busy looking into that a little bit into more details. I'm not 100% versed on that one, but that's definitely something as well that everybody can look into, because I think they offer also quite a lot of very useful tips. But I think the most important thing is just to be systematic about it. You have to create a system, because you're going to forget. And you do get busy, and then before you know it, you see a listing go up and you're like, oh, I spoke to that client, why wasn't I there? And then you're disappointed. So you have to, unfortunately, when you get busy, you're going to have to rely on some systems to help you.
Absolutely. I actually love that, because instead of remaining top of mind, you're actually remaining at the bottom of the mind. And I know we've all experienced that. We have those conversations, and they typically happen when you bump into somebody in by accident, and they go, "Oh, we've just sold our property," and you're going, I've just missed out on a huge amount of potential commission. Now, you also jumped into something which is so important, which is, it's actually a mistake that so many people that I've seen in coaching that actually make when they're doing follow ups. And you actually raised a very, very valid point, which is not make the follow up seem like an advert. Don't make it so generic that it seems like a cut and paste. Make sure that it becomes personalized, because that personalized approach is what people will continue the conversation with. So it's very important as you're having your communications. Follow up is simple, but it's not just cut and paste. Make sure that you're continuing that particular conversation as you're going through, using tools and notes to actually remember, hey, this is the conversation I had with them. Making detailed notes, doing a follow-up a week later and saying, hey, by the way, I spoke to you a week ago. Just want to see how you're doing. I know that you sprained your ankle. Is it feeling better? That's staying top of mind, having that personal connection, being authentic as you're going through, not just a cut and paste of, hey, I know you want to sell. Are you ready? That's like kind of straight into your face. Now, Colette, I know that we've all had this, whereby somebody sends you a lead, whether it's an inquiry that comes through a digital platform, or someone has actually kind of sent you a message, and you take the time to make contact with them and you build that relationship with them. But then you go and send a message and they don't come back to you. They ghost you. They just kind of say, and they disappear. And I know we've all had this experience in the past. How do you typically handle when people ghost you? What do you typically do? How do you follow up with a ghost?
Look, I think it's a decision that you have to make, whether it's worth that, chasing that ghost, or whether you just agree to walk away and leave it alone. Um, Sometimes people do get busy. We get that. People do get busy. I would then, if somebody doesn't take my call, I would follow it up maybe with a WhatsApp message or an email. But if they don't come back, you know what? I think there's different opinions based on this. I initially, when I started in this industry, I used to chase after buyers, and I used to try and help them because I'm going to save your life, because you want to find you your dream home. But I also have found that you do waste a lot of time on those people. And yes, those were the ones that ghosted me a lot more. So it's a decision that you have to make, and decide whether it's worth your while or not. Sellers, on the other hand, that's where your money lies, because you're going to have your mandate. But that can also happen. So I think for me, it's just, reaching out maybe 3-4 times. And if you didn't, just see, look, there's absolutely no way. I've actually got an example now with a client that we were dealing with now. And he wants to sell the property, then he wants to put it on the market. I'd scheduled a photographer. It was backwards, forwards. Eventually, I was like, you know what? I sent him a message. I said, hey, you really seem like a very busy person, and I'm not going to irritate you or get in your space. So you let me know when you're ready. So, sometimes you just got to go, okay, let me take a seat back. And he knows I'm here. He's going to try to do it on his own, or whatever it is that his situation is at the moment. When he needs me, he knows I'm here.
Absolutely. And one thing that I found is, people do, you actually called it quite correctly. People have a life. They're not dedicated and focused on you as the agent. They have a life, they get busy. Suddenly things change in their business, their personal life, and things go forward. I remember reflecting on a client. I followed up with them for 18 months. And people said to me, Stuart, that is absolutely madness. But I followed up with this couple for 18 months. And it was 18 months later that they actually bought a property from me. And right in the beginning, when we had started on this particular journey, they were very interested, seeing properties, going through pre-qualifiers, but then they ghosted me. And ultimately, the reason why they ghosted me was they'd actually just had a baby. So they were actually, their whole life changed. They wanted to just wait for that to actually settle down. And then they started that process. They wanted to get everything in place. But throughout that journey, I did not know that they'd had the baby. I knew that she was pregnant. I'd sent messages, but I didn't get any responses. But I kept on those communications for 18 months until they finally came to me and said, Stuart, now we're ready. And the great thing with it is, when I showed them, and I only showed them one property because I had built up a relationship with them, it was one property that I showed them, one viewing, and I took the offer straight away. And that's the journey that you can go with on actual follow-ups with your particular clients. Now, Colette, throughout your journey, you've had clients come through to you, and that's come from a lead. That lead has been a lead that has been really strong. And you've actually seen that you need to follow up, and it goes through to a particular sale. But sometimes leads that come in are just generic questions, generic inquiries. How do you decipher the difference between a hot lead that you should follow up with and a lead that's not actually a lead? It's just somebody that was giving an inquiry on behalf of somebody else that can be pushed to one side so that you can be more focused on your business. How do you define the difference between a hot lead and an ice cold lead?
For me, it really is about asking the correct questions. I am quite specific because without wanting to sound arrogant or straightforward, but I tell clients upfront, you know what, I need to ask all these questions because I need to know best how to help you. So it's not just also whether it is a buyer, to qualify them, whether the affordability is there. You can sense the urgency. all of those things. So there's, for me, the questioning part of the conversation is very important, because then you can build your relationship with your client, because also exactly, by asking the questions, okay, is this property you inquired about actually the right property for you? No, it's actually not. So what is it that you're looking for? So for me, when I get a lead, or I treat them all as important straight away. I'm very much, I need to get on it now. I need to phone them now. I need to talk to them now. So and I've had quite a few clients say, oh, wow, you actually answered the phone call, or you're actually coming back to me. Thank you. And I'm like, wow, do other agents not do that? So that is important. But I think for me, it is just, the questions that you ask. Thereby you can qualify them. Okay, so they're in the market, they're sussing out whether they want to buy. If it's a seller lead that somebody would pass, I've also had those where a friend would know, say, oh no, my friend is going to sell a property, and then you phone in like, I'm not quite ready, or this or that. But then you start building that relation. But it's the questions that you ask. You have to find the motivated. You have to ask the correct questions, whether it's to qualify them for affordability for the property, or the urgency. And whether the property is the right one for them. Because I had a lady the other day, she inquired, it was a 7 million rand listing. When I phoned and discussed it, no, I want to spend 4 million. I was like, that's not going to work. But you have to ask the questions. And by doing that, and then now she's here, now she is a lead, she needs to find a property, and I'm working with her to find her the right property. But it's all about the questions. That's how you qualify your leads. You have to ask the right questions.
Absolutely. And I absolutely love that. Asking the right questions, because by asking those questions, you are getting to set that expectation. And just like Colette experienced, asking the right questions, she could have taken somebody through to a 7 million rand listing. They would have loved the property. Their heart probably would be really bouncing out of their chest until you give them the price, and then that heart turns into a heart attack because they can't afford it, and that really crushes a person. So asking those questions is extremely, extremely important. So as we've discussed today, there's only three things that you really need to do in real estate: generate leads, follow up, and then just close them. It's as simple as that. But the area that everybody seems to just almost disregard is that little section in the middle, which is the follow-up. Colette, I want to thank you so much for coming on to this particular session. Any final thought or comments from yourself?
I wrote down something here that I thought that I would just share with everybody. The consistency of your actions directly correlates with the consistency of your income. So if you're going to be consistent in every single point, in every single aspect, it's that doing the listing, or getting the listing, then the leads is where, because if that lead comes in, and you're not going to service that lead, you're not going to follow up on that lead may not buy the property that they inquired about, or they're not ready to sell now. But you got to look after that relationship, and you got to find your way of communicating with that person. And ultimately, like Stuart says, it could take 18 months. But it is staying in touch, whether it is quarterly. For me, it's also, there's certain people that I now know, they wanted, I'll chat to them on a quarterly basis. Oh, and this was a point I actually wrote down to say, you can also do a database cleaner. I've got, in my phone, because of my previous business as well, I've got probably 4,000 telephone numbers in my phone. Now that is a database of note, but some of those people, I've just got them listed as Johnny Plumber. I don't know where's Johnny a plumber. So it's also an idea to follow up with those people in your database. Clean it up, send a message, create a WhatsApp, and divide your contacts from, into maybe alphabetical, and break it up. This month you do this lot of people, and send a little WhatsApp. Hey, I'm in real estate now, and just reaching out. Just is this still your correct number? Send me your email address. I'd love to stay in touch. By doing that, you could also get new leads from doing that. So do a database cleanup, and that's also, creating more leads for yourself. So I think from my side, it's just really, I think for me, the biggest thing is those leads in the middle before you get to the closing of the deal is very important, because out of that you can get potential business, because that shows your level of service as well and what people can expect from you. Because somebody phoning you to inquire about one of your listings, they may have a property they still need to sell, and the agent they're working with is not doing what they need to do. So you can also jump in there and you can also get that listing. So it's about how you treat those people and how you can add value and show your value proposition to those people. So I think, yeah, that's pretty much from me.
Fantastic. Colette, it's always a pleasure having you on these particular sessions. A lot of insightful information that you actually share with us,
Thank you.
remaining authentic and also making sure that you follow up. It is so, so important for each and every one of you to do that. As the statistics have shown, 60% of the agents do not follow up, and they're losing, well, potentially 80% of your revenue is going to come from leads that you actually follow up with. So if you're not following up, if you're one of those agents, you're going to fall into that category to find this industry extremely difficult, because ultimately what you're trying to do is almost the impossible. You're trying to go from a lead to a close without following up. Just add that little section in the beginning. If you've never done it before, it's the easiest part. It's just continuing a conversation with that particular lead until they become a client. And that's all this journey is all about: building relationships, follow up, follow up, follow up. So for you to master the actual follow-up process, well, it's actually very straightforward and simple. So this is a session, Elite Masterminds, where I bring on high-performing agents that are really at the top end of their game. They understand the intrinsic requirements to go through this particular journey as a real estate agent. So again, Colette, thank you so much for coming on to
Thank
this
you.
particular session. And I look forward to seeing all of you in our future Elite Masterminds sessions.